US President Donald Trump and his team are discussing options for acquiring Greenland, saying the goal is always an option.
We need Greenland from a national security situation.
We need Greenland for national protection. We need that for international security, not just security, international.
This week showed two very different kinds of leadership. One leader threatened to use military force against a NATO ally. Another made a quiet move that changed the balance. In Paris on January 6, 2026, NATO faced its most serious stress since it was created in 1949. Tensions rose after the US president threatened to annex a fellow NATO country. Many experts expected NATO to split. They thought Europe would stay silent to avoid angering Washington. That did not happen. Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, stayed calm and acted strategically. While in Paris for a Ukraine coalition meeting, he announced that Canada will open a new consulate in Greenland. Canada's Governor-General, Mary Simon, and Foreign Affairs Minister, Anita Anand, will travel there in early February. This move matters. At the same time the U.S. was threatening Denmark on television, Canada directly told Denmark in person that Canadian support is firm and non-negotiable. The decision is final and already underway. Canada has spent years building real Arctic presence, not just talking about it. That long-term planning is now paying off. As U.S. credibility weakens, Canada's influence in Europe is growing fast. Between January 5th and 6th, 2026, something important shifted in transatlantic relations. One country used threats, another used commitment. The difference was impossible to ignore. Denmark did not back down, and Canada became the partner Europe suddenly took very seriously. This is not just about opening a consulate. It signals a deeper change. U.S. diplomacy is becoming unreliable, while Canada is emerging as a steady, trusted ally. Here's what actually happened in Paris. 30 countries met to discuss long-term security guarantees for Ukraine. The goal was practical: prevent Russia from using a ceasefire to rearm and agree on funding, training, and future security plans. Normally, this would be routine alliance work, but this week was not normal. Just days before the meeting, the U.S. president told The Atlantic he wanted to annex Greenland from Denmark. His senior advisor, Stephen Miller, would not rule out using military force. That means the U.S. openly suggested attacking a NATO ally to take its territory. That crosses a red line. Denmark's prime minister responded clearly. If the United States attacks another NATO country, NATO itself stops functioning. That is not political rhetoric. That is the basic logic of the alliance breaking down in real time. Then came the U.S. president's response, spoken aboard Air Force One. European leaders know America needs Greenland. The statement showed blunt disregard for alliance norms. And this is where the contrast becomes clear. While one North American leader threatened allies, another reinforced them. Mark Carney arrived in Paris dealing with his own challenges, including Chrystia Freeland taking on a new advisory role with Ukraine while remaining a Canadian MP. Even so, Canada chose stability over spectacle. That difference did not go unnoticed in Europe. Carney could have stayed quiet. He didn't. Asked about Trump's threats toward Greenland, he was clear. Canada stands with Denmark and Greenland. The U.S. is a close partner, but allies come first. That wasn't hedging. It showed priorities. Then came the real move. After meeting Denmark's prime minister, Carney announced that Canada will open a consulate in Greenland in early February. The Governor-General and Foreign Minister will lead the visit. The message was deliberate. While the U.S. talked about taking Greenland, Canada built permanent diplomatic ties that strengthened Denmark's sovereignty. Europe noticed. Leaders worried about U.S. instability saw Canada acting like a reliable ally. Finland's president requested a meeting with Carney. These were serious talks, not symbolism. This week wasn't only about Greenland. The U.S. also used military force to arrest Venezuela's president and invoked the Monroe Doctrine, claiming authority over the Western Hemisphere. Trump even rebranded it, but the message was the same: control resources and territory. The pattern is clear: Venezuela for oil, Greenland for Arctic power. It's the same logic Russia used in Ukraine, now used by the country meant to lead the Democratic Alliance. Canada responded differently. Ottawa said it supports Venezuelan democracy and the right of Venezuelans to choose their future, without backing U.S. military action or regime change. That contrast matters. NATO rests on one rule: attack one, face all. When a U.S. president threatens to seize a NATO ally's land, that rule collapses. Denmark knows this. That's why its leaders warned NATO cannot survive if the U.S. becomes the threat. Into that gap, Canada is stepping carefully. The Greenland consulate isn't just diplomacy, it's a signal to Europe that Canada respects sovereignty where the U.S. is questioning it. Canada's partnerships are based on sovereignty, not control. At the Ukraine meeting, security plans mattered, but a bigger question dominated private talks. Can Europe still rely on the United States? The emerging answer is uncomfortable. Maybe not. For decades, Canada followed U.S. leadership. That model is breaking down, not because Canada changed, but because U.S. behavior became unpredictable. When a key partner creates chaos, others look for stability. That's why Canada's upcoming visit to Greenland matters. Europe is watching closely, not just for Denmark, but for signs of what a post-American alliance system might look like. When Trump used the same logic Russia used in Ukraine to justify pressure on Greenland, something snapped. Europe noticed the contrast. The U.S. threatens allies. Canada strengthens them. The U.S. invokes empire. Canada respects sovereignty. Canada didn't force this moment. It stepped into a gap others created. The opening was created by U.S. diplomatic collapse. Canada is taking it through steady, strategic action. The pattern is clear. When the U.S. threatens allies, Canada reinforces them. When Washington leans on imperial logic, Ottawa respects sovereignty. When chaos spreads, Canada offers stability. That's how influence shifts, not through speeches, but through repeated choices. Reliable partners replace unreliable ones quickly. Paris wasn't just a Ukraine meeting. It was the moment Europe began asking whether its most important North American partner might no longer be the United States. In February, Canada opens its consulate in Greenland. While U.S. threats linger, Canada will be visibly present, reinforcing partnership. That contrast will be seen across NATO. Canada isn't seeking dominance, it's gaining influence because others are losing trust. Sovereignty isn't just land or resources, it's being the partner others choose. The transition is already